and a 70% fall on 2021. Here to unpack what's happening in the markets and what could happen next is David Schwimmer. He's the CEO of LSEG, joining me around the desk here in Davos. David, a warm welcome to the program. It's great to see you here in Switzerland.
Thanks for having me, Dan. Great to be here.
Before we talk about the impact of what's happening at the company, just walk me through what we're seeing right now from a global macroeconomic perspective. Sticky inflation, geopolitical tensions, uncertainty surrounding interest rates. As you look at the world, the outlook from the lens of Davos, what are you seeing right now in the year ahead?
I think big theme is unpredictability, a lot of uncertainty, and that leads to an expectation of volatility. If you go around the world, you can see very different situations in different economies. A lot of excitement about the US. We'll see how long that lasts. There are some lurking challenges there. I think a little bit more of a gloomy perspective on parts of Europe. Some of that is geopolitical, some of that is economic. China, some challenges. India, a little bit more positive. So a lot of differences depending on where you are in the globe. But overall, as I said, volatility and unpredictability.
Let's talk about what you're working on over at LSEG as well. Historically, it's been a hub for liquidity and access to capital, but what we're also seeing right now is many private companies choosing to stay private for longer. So why is IPO activity so subdued? Why aren't we seeing businesses go public these days?
Well, so we've had almost 20 years, depending on how you count, of a very supportive interest rate cycle. And what I mean by that is very low cost or free money. When you have that kind of situation, it's very easy to access debt financing without needing to access the public equity markets. And so we've seen a huge growth in private capital really over the last 20 years. We've now seen a shift in the cycle. And I would expect actually, as capital costs something again, I think you'll see a different kind of behavior coming out of private equity firms, coming out of companies that are private. I think it's interesting when you look at the private equity firms themselves, where people who are running those firms, it's basically their job to think through cycles. A lot of them, over the last 10 years or so, have gone public. So that's an interesting data point right there. But largely, you have a massive amount of private capital, and I don't think that's going to go away. So I think we have a broader private capital ecosystem that if companies want to stay private, they don't have to go public. And that's okay. There's still benefits to going public as well.
One of the things you're also working on is the Pisces framework. And the idea here is essentially to create a trading place for these private enterprises. What does it mean for those private companies that are seeking capital, and how is this actually going to work in practice?
So this is a platform that we will be launching on the London Stock Exchange as soon as we get approval from the FCA, which I would expect in the coming months. What it means is that you as a private company can basically be traded publicly for a day. And so you make an announcement, we're going to be available for trading on the Pisces platform on the London Stock Exchange on, call it February 15th. You put some data into a data room, less onerous than a public company, an IPO prospectus. And then when that date comes, you are literally available for trading on the London Stock Exchange to all of the institutions that have access to trading on the London Stock Exchange, which is basically most major financial institutions in the world. When that's done, you go back to being a private company. No obligations for disclosure, et cetera. So it's actually a very attractive solution for private companies that want to provide liquidity to maybe LPs, provide liquidity to employees, but they don't actually want to be a public company. And there are a number of features that we're building into it that really allow it to replicate, but in a much more efficient way, a typical private placement process. For example, you can have a limitation on who can actually access it. You can have a minimum price, et cetera. So when we talk to private equity firms, when we talk to private companies, they're very excited about it. And as I said, we're ready to go.